I would like
Watch, everybody's going to hate it.
I would like us to know that we are a corporation-free podcast.
Yes.
We are not sponsored
by Dr. Pepper.
We are not sponsored by Dr. Pepper sugar-free strawberries and cream.
The most delicious soda in the world.
But if they did want to
Bobby,
sponsor us.
Right, exactly.
That'd be cool.
Let me be clear.
I'm looking forward to finding out that Dr. Pepper murdered an entire generation of strawberries for the strawberries and cream flavor. Bobby, the look on your face tells me this is news to you. Hi everyone, welcome to OSA Backstage. I am Dani Meyer and I am truly recording backstage at the Holland Center. On today's episode, Serena and I talk with the two people that inspired the most number of questions following every single concert, and that is our principal and associate principal bass player, Nate Olson, and Bobby Scharmann. This is, as Serena put it, the most informative episode that we have captured, and I'm really pleased about that because usually when three bass players get together, we can't stop giving each other garbage long enough to actually have a real conversation. So, big win for us today. I think you're going to love it. We get into a lot of stuff. We tried really hard to do some descriptive stuff for the audio, so I apologize if you're just listening to this as a podcast and you can't see it, but if you imagine your usual favorite troublemakers, you will get the idea. No hot sauce today, but she is just as opinionated as ever, and I'm sure she'll be back next time. Thanks for listening. Enjoy. So Serena, I'm so sorry. You're not on our group chat.
No.
I need my friends to save me from myself. Because I discovered this by way of my I'm going to call him out directly. By way of my friend Sean Bell and his wife Julie Bell, that had this in their fridge when I was over there last, and I had one, and it quite possibly is the most delicious soda I've ever had in my entire life, and I can't stop.
I haven't tried it yet.
That's high.
I am excited to
high hopes.
try it though.
Everybody's gonna hate it.
I would like us to know that we are a corporation-free podcast.
Yes.
We are not
We're not sponsored by Dr. Pepper.
We are not sponsored by Dr. Pepper sugar-free strawberries and cream.
The most delicious soda
But
in
if
the
they
world.
did want to
Bobby,
sponsor us.
Right, exactly.
That'd be cool.
Let me be clear.
I'm looking forward to finding out that Dr. Pepper murdered an entire generation of strawberries for the strawberries and cream flavor. Bobby, the look on your face tells me this is news to you. We have had pickles on this podcast.
Is it naturally flavored?
And artificially flavored.
I'm sure.
All right.
Definitely artificial.
We have had
pure Dr. Pepper and strawberries.
We have had pickles on this podcast. We have had non-alcoholic margarita mix on this podcast. Brett said he was drinking gin, and I'm inclined to believe him.
Some reason I thought it would be pink. I'm sorry.
It smells. I can already smell it. So I, guys, I put off asking you to be on the podcast.
You knew this would happen.
Because I knew
we were going to be a problem.
this was going to be the end of the podcast.
This will be the final
This is
episode.
all right, and I didn't get to warn Serena, but
That's very generous.
Prost, everybody.
Cheers.
Oh god.
It smells like children's medicine.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Doesn't it?
I like it. It does. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Like the clear liquid.
Yeah, with the syringe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Like fever, pain reduced. Exactly like it.
Good call.
Bobby, I understand.
I adore it. I'm gonna have to ask you to give me like my full can of it, please. This is not an airline.
Bobby and I are gonna work our way through the rest of it.
Fantastic.
Do you like it, Nate?
I do enjoy it. Yeah, I like this.
Cheers.
You know what? I'm going to move this away from the mic so it's not just fizzing bubbles of my rejected soda the whole time. Would you please pop that can and then introduce yourself? There it is. That's prime audio quality. Okay. If you are only listening on audio, you should know that Bobby just subjected the four of us to Dr. Pepper Zero Sugar Strawberries and Cream, which has got a 3 out of 4 doctors approval rating. And Bobby just just opened another can so that he can mainline that as quickly as possible to get into fighting shape for this afternoon.
Yes.
So I'm going to start with you.
Great.
Dr. Scharmann, would you introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Dr. Bobby Scharmann. I am not a doctor, but I am the associate principal bass of your Omaha Symphony.
Dr. Olson.
I am Dr. Nathaniel Douglas Olson. Also not a doctor, but I am your principal bass. I am the principal bass of your Omaha Symphony.
Dr. Royton.
Do not have a doctorate, but I am the assistant conductor of your Omaha Symphony.
Fantastic. Okay, we ask everyone the same question to start, even though we have invited you two on for very specific reasons, which is you two specifically, but the bass section causes the most number of questions and problems in any given concert.
Most damage.
Yes.
Yeah.
Maximum damage. Did you hear classical music first at home or in the concert hall?
I heard it at home first, actually. My parents had a relatively sizable record collection of different classical music. It was pretty much classical music, and my dad had a bunch of Glenn Campbell albums. So my love of that came from the same place, but it's something I was introduced to pretty early on. My mom is a former clarinetist, and so
I didn't know that.
Yeah. My parents actually met at Indiana University Bloomington, where my mom was pursuing a master's in clarinet performance.
Whoa.
Mm-hmm. Mom was a real clarinetist.
I suddenly fear
and
your
she no
mom.
longer plays. But no, the love of music was definitely present in my house from a very early age.
Okay. Nate?
You said in the concert hall or at home.
Yeah.
What about in the womb? My mom
Think
is
that
a
counts.
classically trained soprano, and so I think she was 5 or 6 months pregnant with me, and she was like the lead in production of Faust, and so from before I can remember. So, but both my parents are classically trained singers, and so I was just always around it. And, my earliest classical music memories are playing a little bit of piano, a little bit of violin, and
Oh my god. Okay. All right. I suddenly fear both sets of your parents. Like
Strong origin story.
The lineage and the pedigree is storied and
Yes.
vast.
Yes.
So what was your first, do you remember your first orchestra concerts?
Kind of.
Okay.
Mom would take me to, so I grew up in Manhattan, Kansas. There was not a professional or even community group really, but there was Kansas State University. And so she would take me to see K-State University Symphony Orchestra concerts. And I have a distinct memory of simultaneously liking what I heard and falling asleep and not knowing what to do with my hands.
I really appreciate that last point.
Yes.
Because it was just like as far as like applauding going, or just like in general, like what do I do as an audience member? Like
I didn't know. I would think I was young enough to be. I was old enough to be self-aware and young enough to be bored, and so I just didn't know what to do. And I think I remember it was probably like after an overture and like the first movement of like a concerto, and I'm like tugging my mom's arm. Can we go home?
Have you learned since what to do with your hands?
No. You may, those of you that are watching on video are going to see me shift my hands a lot.
Fidget toys. And add that to the production.
Yeah, can I get a spinner? A spinner guy?
Next time. Right.
Okay, fine.
Do you know what to do with your hands?
No. Also don't. I'll try and keep them pretty still though. I don't know if I remember like the exact first specific one, but like a couple early memories. I remember we would take field trips, I think starting in middle school, and I remember seeing Hillary Hahn pretty early on.
Oh, cool.
But one that kind of relates to Bobby's story is our family going, and I've got 2 younger brothers. One's just 11 months younger, and then one's 7 years younger. And I don't remember what the concert was, but it was the Indianapolis Symphony. And there was a piano concerto on the front half, and it was a long one. And so it's like I had kind of developed a appreciation for classical music by that point, but my brothers really had not. And so we got to the end of the concerto, and they're both thinking like, "Thank you, like we've made it.
It's over."
And so everybody starts applauding, and like, it's like I knew to expect an encore, or it's likely. And so of course there's an encore, and they like both start like slowly singing. And it was not only one encore, there were 3 encores.
Of course there were.
And so they just kept like sinking it further and further into their chairs. And I thought it was quite hilarious to watch them suffer like that. But it was that is one of my earliest classical music concert memories.
Someone tell this pianist to stop playing.
The stage.
Just watching like, why are you still clapping? He won't go.
It's over.
There's nothing quite like that inner 5-year-old part of your brain that the moment someone subverts your expectations for anything, they just start freaking out. Like, I'm going to throw the world's biggest temper tantrum if you don't do what I expected you to do now.
Just get off the stage.
Just
So can I counter once with, it wasn't my personal experience, but this summer at an Omaha Chamber Music Society concert, at the Baroque concert that we put on. My parents, my sister, her partner, and my niece and nephew were at the concert. My nephew was 5 and my niece was 8. And during the time I was resting, when the upper strings were kind of doing a thing, I looked out to the audience and I saw my nephew like very wrapped in attention, and I saw my niece sitting there like grooving along with like the Baroque kind of like I think Micah the cellist was playing some solo continuo, and she was grooving along with it. So it's definitely something that children can enjoy thoroughly.
Yes, and I think there's the it's really hard to, like, your first concert, it's really hard to give, like, okay, here's how it's gonna go, and you're gonna sit for this long, and then this is gonna happen. Like, if you spell out every minute of it, then like the magic might be tampered with a little bit, or the joy might be tampered with. And to be fair, some adults also fall asleep in concerts. I have a distinct memory, sorry Dad, of
my dad too.
My mom.
Oh, fantastic. Okay. Beethoven 7, he fell asleep during the 2nd movement.
Yep.
And then we woke him right up during the 3rd, and I was watching it, and it was a joy to be like, any second now.
We've got him.
So like that video, what orchestra was it? Rite of Spring?
Firebird.
It was Firebird.
The Infernal Dance, the first hit of the Infernal Dance. Just in some ways, that's the joy of live music, is like you just don't know. And also, I don't think people intend to fall asleep. Although if we play something particularly beautiful, I'm not all that mad at it.
No, and I was gonna say before we move on from the topic, is like my dad sometimes would say like, oh, I kind of feel bad, like your mom was really enjoying it, but I kind of fell asleep. I was just like, it sounds like you were just enjoying it in that way. I'm not offended that he fell asleep.
Right, you're still
in
there.
A way, it sounds like we did our job for his listening experience.
Yeah.
So I'm cool with that.
1,000%.
Come to the symphony and fall asleep.
Take a nap.
So you
Insomniacs rejoice.
Yeah, I tell my mom, say, you'll sit through the first, but then you'll probably nap in the second, and that's okay, and then you'll wake up again.
Rested and refreshed for the scared
Exactly.
And this is so we're in a Masterworks week right now. We have Sibelius 1 on this program, and so there's definitely, Sibelius is not really kind about having a movement that's entirely one feeling. So there's a lot of like really hard right hand turns or left hand turns back into like very aggressive music. So it's not prime nap material.
No, it's not particularly long either.
No,
like it kind of gets right to the point.
He really does. It's going for a walk in the woods, and lots of interesting things happen to you during that walk. And unfortunately, some of them involve thunderstorms. If you listen to our timpanist this week, you'll get that in a nutshell. Okay, so speaking of falling asleep and instruments that put you out, bass.
That's what everybody thinks of first.
That's what everybody thinks of. Look, how many jokes do we know that are like, oh, I'll get a drink once the bass solo starts.
Yeah.
We occupy a weird place in history where we understand in music where we understand that we are important, but it's not really clear how important we are until we are missing from the equation.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But I'm curious about how both of you ended up playing bass, because I know for a fact that you did everything but bass. And then you weren't even an orchestra bass. Bobby.
Yes.
Piano.
Yes.
Viola.
Yes.
Drums.
No, that was later. I actually played drums in college.
Jazz bass.
No, rock bass. That's my origin story.
All right, you go ahead.
So I was a student of piano and viola, and I liked...
You're a pretty serious pianist.
I was. The thing about piano for me is like I was good at it, but it never like quite got like my heartstrings, you know. And so I kept playing because I enjoyed it, and I put all my time into it. And then in 4th grade orchestra, we get to pick instruments, and I looked at the cello. I was like, I want to play that. There weren't any basses in my elementary school. And they said, well, Bobby, here's the thing. There are 4 cellos and 0 violas, so guess what you're going to play?
You are kidding me.
No.
You also we have 4 cellos, there are 0 this other thing?
Yeah. Is that how you started playing bass?
There are 4 cellos, there are 0 basses.
You're playing a bass?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so I played viola for 8 years. All the way up until most of my youth orchestra experience was on viola, not bass. And the origin story for bass is that, I've always looked up to my older sister. She's 2 years older than me. She started playing piano before me. And so I thought that was super cool. I was like, I want to play the piano. And then the viola was kind of my thing. But then she ended up buying an electric bass off of eBay because sites like sweetwater.com, not sponsored, we're not around. And couldn't just go on Facebook Marketplace and buy a bass. So she had bought it for like $100 on eBay. It was not a good bass, but she was going to start a band with her friends, and she played for about 2 months and then kind of lost interest, and it lived in her closet. And so my friends in middle school decided they wanted to start a rock band.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I remember my good friend from childhood, he was like, yeah, I'm going to play lead guitar. Like Jake's going to play rhythm guitar, and like Eric's going to play the drums, but we don't have a bass player. I was like, I'll play the bass. So I went home and I stole my sister's bass out of her closet while she was out, and she didn't find out until she came to our first show, and was like, "Hey, that's mine."
Did she just think you had somehow?
I just procured a bass. I mean, she was at that point where she was kind of out of the house most of the time, hanging out with her, hooligan friends and whatnot.
Right.
So she didn't pay me any mind until I was playing her bass at a show.
And her reaction was?
That's mine.
And then her next
Give it back.
So what happened after that?
I had to buy my own bass.
Oh my god. Way to go, Amy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Shout out, Amy.
Setting firm boundaries. That's really important.
That's mine. Give it back.
Okay. So rock bass.
Mm-hmm.
But you eventually went, when you got to college, you were getting into jazz. Is that accurate?
Yes and no. Jazz was another thing I heard at home from my mom. My mom was a big Dave Brubeck fan, as well as a big, why can't I? Diana Krall was a big fan of hers. And I think why jazz bass kind of became a thing for me was because the bassist Christian McBride played on a lot of Diana Krall stuff, and Christian McBride is an absolute beast. Mm-hmm. And so I think I kind of grew up with that sound in my ear, right? So
when did you make the switch to? And we should put the caveat out there that almost every name that we call bass is accurate.
Yeah.
Upright bass is right. String bass is right. Double bass is right.
Bull fiddle.
That's the best one.
Nate is a certified bull fiddler. It's all correct. Bass violin, it's all right.
Yes.
But there's a distinct difference between a bass guitar.
Yeah. So an electric bass is what you see in, like somebody playing in a rock band, and that's what I played first. And I remember my teacher at the time, I came and saw like a Sunday brunch quartet that he had at a coffee shop, and he was playing upright bass. And he said, "Bobby, come up and play one." I was like, "I've never played that before." He said, "You'll be fine." And so he said, we're doing a B-flat blues, and I kind of heard my way through it and didn't crash and burn. He thought I did a pretty good job. And so then I went out and I got my first double bass. And I played 1 year in youth orchestra, and I was not good enough to play in college at that point.
Okay.
And so I went to college for electrical engineering to start and failed miserably because I skipped all my classes to play music with my friends.
There it is.
Came back to my hometown, did an undergrad at Kansas State. Still wasn't good enough at the bass to be a performance major, so I started in composition.
What?
Did that for 2 years, decided I don't like composing. I just want to play. And then I kind of practiced my tail off and became a performance major and did my undergrad in classical double bass.
Okay. So you chaos magicked your way
Yes.
into an orchestral bassist, even though that had never been the plan.
The really quick last part of this is that I got into Indiana University for my master's degree in jazz studies. Right. And that was what I was going to graduate. I was going to move to a New York or Chicago or something like that and make it freelancing and doing studio work and stuff like that. And then I couldn't help myself, and I auditioned for the orchestras, and I was placed in, I think it was third chair university orchestra. Yeah. And I got moved up because somebody wanted to take an audition, and I sat with,
Why?
Why what?
Why did you have to join orchestra?
Because the orchestra is unlike anything else.
Okay, but why?
70 plus people created an electric performance.
Great.
Something about that feeling is just it's impossible to replicate anywhere else. Being part of something so large, so much greater than yourself.
So it didn't even matter necessarily what the piece was.
No. You
were just I'm here for this.
But that was the first time I'd heard a really good orchestral double bass sound. It was John McCullough-Benner's sound.
My friend John, yeah.
Who was with the Milwaukee Symphony for a long time, and it's one of the best sounds I've ever heard in my life. I was like, oh my god, I want to sound like that. So in the middle of my jazz studies master's degree, I decided I want to be an orchestral bass player.
I love everything about that, and I know how hard you've worked. So it's this weird combination of oh cool, so the rest of us who had a plan and did the plan from the beginning.
Chaos magic, everybody.
I think the lesson is you can deviate from the plan and good things will happen.
Sometimes.
Now, Nate, your path is a little bit different.
Yeah.
I know a little bit of it. When did you decide to leave the band Creed and to go?
Well, I've never left, Danny. I'm still there.
Okay, but in all seriousness, how did a bass end up in your hands?
So kind of similar to Bobby's, I did start with bass guitar. Well, okay, so before that, did a little bit of piano growing up, a little bit of violin. My mom's also a violinist along as a singer.
Of course she is.
So, yeah. So I was pretty young when I played those. I really hardly remember playing them. Was not that great at them. But so in 5th grade, there was a semester where so my dad spent most of his career as a worship pastor at various churches, and so in 5th grade he told me if I got straight A's that he would buy me a bass guitar. And so 5th grade Nate was like, that's incredible, that would be so cool. But little did I know, the motivation behind it was so that he would have his own built-in bass guitar player for the praise band for the rest of the time that I lived at home, which is however many, 7 more years.
What an investment.
Yeah. And so yeah, that's what happened. I did get straight A's, and I got a bass guitar and started playing bass guitar for a year. And then in 6th grade, you have to pick an instrument or choose choir or whatever in middle school. And so, yeah, I remember going there and thinking well, the upright bass is the same strings, it's the same notes, it's just this way, and there's no frets. So I'm gonna do that. And started in middle school string orchestra. And then I think I started taking private lessons in 8th grade and just kind of, went from there.
And you've just never, you've never decided mid anything that you would rather do something completely different?
No, that was kind of the plan from the beginning. It was pretty quick. I started studying with the assistant principal bass of the Indianapolis Symphony, Bob Goodlett, and he was just an awesome teacher, and so I'd go see him at concerts. And I think I remember even like my freshman year, like we had to have a day where we like went and job shadowed somebody. So I went and job shadowed him, and so I went to one of their double rehearsal days, and it was really cool. They like brought a chair out on stage and just stuck it in the bass section,
Nice.
and like I had my own little music stand, and I'm following along in the bass part. And
oh, that's really great.
yeah, it was really cool.
I wish we could do that here.
We have it recorded down, so I think we need to be. Okay,
Yeah.
so Chuck, if you're listening, make a note that we're gonna take this. Okay, I love everything about that. So was there a moment where you knew that this was going to be the career path, or did you just find yourself kind of in it?
I definitely, like at the beginning, I kind of just found myself in it, but I was probably like the biggest moment that I can look back and point at was after my freshman year of high school. I went to the Sewanee Summer Music Festival in Tennessee, and that was my first time playing with a full orchestra with winds, brass, and percussion along with strings. And we did the fourth movement of Track 5, and it was like kind of an outdoor venue thing, and I remember just like working hard all week with all of our friends, and a huge orchestra of like 70 people, and you get to the end of the performance and you've done it, you've worked so hard, everybody's covered in sweat, and there's not a feeling like it. I was like, yeah, this is the coolest thing I've done. I can't see myself doing anything else. So
yeah,
I love that so much. I also love that both of your teacher was just like, Bobby, it's okay. It's this to this, and you'll be fine.
Yeah, and like just throw him in on the gig. It'll be it. Yep. Mm-hmm.
It'll be fine. And I love that was your logic too. It's just like,
oh, this will work out.
It's the same instrument.
Yeah.
It is the same instrument, but now I'm genuinely curious about when you started learning that bass does not follow rules obeyed by other string instruments, right? So there's the fact that we are tuned in fourths and no other string instrument is tuned in fourths. There's the fact that we have two different styles of bow. We have extensions versus non-extensions, which we'll talk about.
Mm-hmm.
That there's no standard bass size,
right?
Except like makers have their own, but that's it. When did you Raboth versus Simandl, right? When did you start to learn that there have been choices along the way that people have made for you that you are just now going along with?
I think like immediately upon buying my first double bass.
Okay.
I went down the road to Kansas City at KC Strings, and I got what's the name of the Cruz bass?
Okay.
One of the chop basses that they have over there. And I kind of went around the shop and I was playing a couple basses, and I found one that kind of vibed with me, and it was something I could afford. My parents said, I already played piano, I already played viola, so if you want to play the double bass, you have to buy it yourself. So I had paper route money from when I was younger, and I was working at Dairy Queen, and so I funded my own double bass, and I was very proud of that purchase. And they said, what kind of a bow do you want? And I was like, just a regular bow? They're like, well, you have to choose. And they're like, well, you can do the overhand French style, or you can do the underhand German style. And I was thinking, well, I already did the overhand with viola, so I'll just do the other one because I want to be different. That's literally the decision time. They were like, which bow do you want to buy? And I picked.
My flappers are gassed in. They feel like the idea that like, well, I already know how to do this. I might as well teach myself to do something completely
different. So chaos magic, everyone.
Okay, Nate, you play French bow. I'm going to do show and tell for people who are watching this on video in a second. But like, do you remember, was there a choice, or did Bob just like...
I didn't actually make a choice. I remember we had just moved to Indiana, and so starting 6th grade orchestra, like I showed up and I didn't have my own bass yet, so I was just playing on what the school had. So the school had the bass and bows, but they were German bows, and so it probably took like a month or two before we got my own bass, and so I was just playing on a German bow at school that whole time. And then we ordered a new bass, and it just came with a French bow. There was no decision made. It was just, it showed up with a French bow. I'm like, well, that's different. And that was the choice.
2 roads diverged in a wood.
We were ships passing in the night.
Yes, exactly.
Let's get Bobby. You brought your bow.
I did.
And
Yeah.
your bass, and I brought mine. So let's go grab those.
Okay.
It's okay. So for those of you who are like, I don't understand what's happening here. There are, unlike every other string instrument, the bass has 2 different styles of bow, and the difference is predominantly in the frog, which is the place where the bow is held. So Bobby has a German bow, so you can see that there's a much bigger frog. And Bobby, can you hold it like as you would? Yeah. So it's a from the side grip. It is a. No,
that's not make it easier to see.
It is a predominantly full arm motion. Is that right, Bobby? Is that
Let me come over here, so we're kind of doing the same thing. Yeah. So, it, like a lot of the weight of the arm is transferred in through the hand and the thumb on the top, which is a little bit different than what you would get with the French style bow.
So you'll notice with violinists and violists and cellists, they'll put their pinky on top. We don't do that because that will destroy your hand in a heartbeat.
In like 3 seconds.
It's just too heavy. So if I'm holding it upright, you'll notice, it's 4 fingers straight across, and then the thumb is tucked, much like an upper string player. And the mechanisms are the same. Now, bass players, regardless of bow style, do not bend their elbows really to play. Like, you don't want a cello-like arm motion. It's still mostly straight. Yeah. But otherwise...
Yeah, I mean, like a lot of it comes from kind of the bigger parts of your arm.
Yeah. And so this is one of the questions we get most often after concerts is, why is one better than the other?
Yes.
I think my favorite time that question was asked was, I forget, I think she studied with you.
She also studied with Mike. I can't. The name isn't important.
Yeah, but it was a young bass student, and she came up, and at that time, all the front row of the bass section was all French bow players, and the back row was all German bow players. And she was a German bow player, and she was like, "Is there a reason that all the German bow players are in the back?"
Put them in the back.
I was like, "That's where they belong."
And I said that's the only way they can contain our power.
Versus I finished an audition and I had someone tell me, "Oh, I didn't know French bow players could play that loud." It's like I don't think that's a thing, but someone had corrupted them to make them think that only German bow players could. And students too. We find that my students Grayson and Max loved to really give German bow players.
Oh, they gave me the business every time they saw me.
So much. They're like, "Yeah, get back there where you belong."
Yeah, like I remember Grayson just like kind of staring me down in the parking garage after a concert, and I go up to his car and he rolls down the window and just kind of looks at me. He's just like, "French bow is better," and then speeds away. I'm just like, what is happening? Like, this is like a junior in high school.
Yes, and he's hazing you.
Yes. His teacher taught him well.
I am very proud of myself. No, I think it's interesting that weird rivalry dynamic exists. But to be fair, in Europe there is a culture of German orchestras play with German bows,
yes.
French orchestras play with French, and Swiss orchestras don't know what the hell to do with themselves.
No.
There's in Europe there's also the variation of the 5-string.
Yes.
So there are so many choices you have, or then you have Joel Corrington playing tuned in fifths.
Yep. I
So
like that you brought that up.
That was very interesting.
I like that you brought that up.
I think it's time for another game of show and tell.
Yes.
Okay. So I guess the long story short for the bows is we were either not given a choice or our teacher played that style and therefore that's what we play. And it doesn't really correspond to anything else because we're an American orchestra, and so it really doesn't matter. It's personal preference. Some people do switch because they have hand wrist issues, and so switching to the other can alleviate some of that.
And I was going to say really quick before we get off the topic of bows specifically is that like either one can do everything you need it to. Like German bow, French bow, they can do all the tricks. They have advantages, they have disadvantages. String crossings are particularly disadvantageous for German bow players because with a French bow, you know, there's a lot more flexibility of the wrist to switch strings. But for a German bow player, you know, like some of the older guys will call it pumping water because you have a lot more elbow movement to make that string crossing happen. So,
which is
advantages and disadvantages.
Which is why I encourage Nate to make the bowings as complicated as possible so that Bobby's working overtime.
Yes.
Because
y'all got to get your money's worth.
He made the wrong decision. Okay. So I also brought my bass. I don't know if we need it. You're gonna see if you're watching on video, Bobby's just gotten his bass out and he has an extension.
Mm-hmm.
What an extension is it. You think of a normal scroll that you see on a violin, viola, or cello, or my bass. An extension on a bass extends the fingerboard up above the scroll, and therefore lets you put on a longer string, longer lowest string, which increases the range.
Yes.
So the longer the string plus the bigger the string determines in how low or high the string is. And in Bobby's case, he has an extension that can open to a low C.
Yes.
Okay.
So the fingerboard is extended, custom piece made by a luthier, and the string typically will go up and over a pulley at the top. There's a small hole that's drilled in the scroll typically, and it will come in and land on the tuner there. There's some newer designs that don't require you to drill a hole in the scroll. Some people are very sensitive about it. I've heard people call it mutilating the scroll. You know, on a fine antique instrument, it doesn't affect anything. It'll be fine. Just calm down. If you want the extension, just get it. So this one also has what are called gates. And so if I have all 4 of my gates closed, then I get my typical low E that I would find normally. And each one of these gates is a half step. So E flat or D sharp, D, C sharp, or D flat, and then finally, every bassist's favorite note, the low C.
It is really nice.
Now it is interesting, Serena, that you brought up 5 strings in alternate tunings and that is typically a regional thing. Whereas in North America, we have opted to keep a 4-string dynamic and extend the lower range by way of an extension. In Europe, it is significantly more common and honestly preferred and required in a lot of orchestras to have what's called a 5-string double bass, which has an additional 5th string on the bottom that goes down to a low B. Again, it's an advantages and disadvantages thing where some would argue that the additional pressure on the top from that 5th string suppresses some of the resonance of the instrument. Therefore, a lot of people prefer the extension because it tends to open the instrument up as opposed to create more pressure on the top. So
there's also, the way the bridge works, and again, I apologize for anyone who's just listening to audio, but if you imagine any string bridge, the placement of 4 strings is calculated very precisely so that you do not hit if you're playing them correctly, you don't hit other strings when you are playing on, 1. Unfortunately, with a 5-string, you have to have a slightly bigger bridge and you have slightly
smaller,
the tolerances are a lot smaller.
Yeah. The angles between each string are less extreme, and so it becomes more difficult. So that's one of the trade-offs. You can get a low B extension. James Giles, one of our bassists, had a low B for a long time. He has traded in for an instrument that is slightly less physically taxing to play. It's a beautiful instrument too. Now Bobby, Nate, you also have an extension. I don't have an extension. I'm curious if we can talk about why they exist to begin with. Because
you want to take that one?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, just to begin with, some of the repertoire kind of demands it's written in that we have some notes that go below an E. A lot of music that we play, especially the earlier stuff, we kind of just have the same line as the cello a lot of the times, and so they go down to a low C. and we play an octave below them. So there are times where we'd have notes that go down to a low C just because it was what they had.
No, what's fun is that bass naturally sounds okay. So bass and cello are written to look the same on the clef, but bass actually sounds an octave lower than it's written, which is something I often forget. So when we have modern composers who are like, no, you actually, like, I need this to be an octave up.
You're like,
or
oh.
It's like, wait, okay, all right, yes, I know how that works.
Brief short circuit.
But you're absolutely right. It's like, so we are matching the cellos, but even if we play in unison with them, we are actually playing an octave lower the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then you just have consistency where instead of having to go up the octave for certain things, then you're able to play everything exactly the way the cellos.
Yeah, for the most part. And I was going to say with the 5-string, that's the advantage with that, I would say, is in the left hand, because it can be a little cumbersome to reach back and try and quickly change gates or move your fingers up there.
Sometimes it can be an advantage. If, like, let's say that like we're in the key of D something and I have like a bunch of quick D octaves in a row, maybe you could get that on a 5-string, but there might be times where the only way to get that to work on a 5-string is some fancy shift, but we can just close the gate. But then there are other times where we might have to play complicated riffs on something that was not designed for the left hand.
Yeah.
Yes. I learned that lesson. I borrowed Nate's bass the other season to play the Gabriele Lena Frank opera that we did, which was fantastic, but that I borrowed it because you were on vacation and it needed extension. Like it had tons of extension. And I learned the hard way that, like, if you spend a lot of time up here, you can jack up your
shoulder.
Jack up your shoulder real fast. Okay, you briefly mentioned our original purpose potentially was to double the cello line, which is why we are known as the double bass. When do we start noticing that bass parts are being written specifically for us? Is there like a composer that starts dividing? Because that was when I was first playing in orchestra and youth orchestra, just like, oh, the cello and the bass parts are on the same page. I thought it was a choose your own adventure moment, and I was incorrect. You're supposed to play the bass part if you're a bassist, but do you notice like a moment?
That was kind of, I think, the first, because originally they were just the same, and then I feel like at some point then you started seeing like it was the same for a while, and then it would split into two different staffs, and there was the cello line and the bass line. What would you say? Maybe like Beethoven?
He definitely started doing different, like Mozart is the same. And it's insanity having to play cello parts at those tempos. But Beethoven started to deviate. And then Brahms, for me, is the first person who was like, no, you get an entirely separate part and it's written for you. Yeah. Is there, just personally, is there a repertoire that you feel really, like when you see it on the stand, are you just excited for how you get to approach it as a bassist?
Brahms. I feel like it is written for the bass, and a lot of it just fits naturally on the bass, where Mozart, it was clearly not written for the bass and presents a lot of challenges where Brahms just kind of lays a lot more easily most of the time. I mean, some of it is difficult as well, but
I like playing Strauss.
Yeah.
It's not that it necessarily lays better on the bass, but it does feel like very uniquely its own and has a character of its own. And, we have something to say that is not just the cello line an octave down. Yeah. It's lots of fun.
It is lots of fun. The other thing I wanted to discuss, I don't know if this necessarily applies to the three of us, but there's the things you learn as you get further into basshood is that you should have followed one of two paths. You either should have been a Simandl kid or a Rabath kid. And Simandl, someday I will show you this book. Okay, it's written in German, English, and Japanese. It's this big. And Simandl, it's written by Franz Simandl. And the idea is that you start in half position and you work your way up with series of exercises, until you have conquered all the positions, and then he lets you maybe play like an arpeggio. He's not interested in melodies. He's not interested. You go from here's
bass players don't play melodies.
No. You go from like here's an arpeggio exercise to okay, now here's all the bass parts you're going to have to deal with in your life. And then you have the Rabath method, which is like, all right, cool. So we got bass in your hands, you got bow in your hands. We're gonna learn how to play concerto.
We're gonna play way up high.
So an emphasis on melodic learning immediately in thumb position, which for bass players is the most prominent solo position. Very like you don't touch the E string for a long time, especially if you're going with the Vance method, which is like Rabath influence, right? Okay, you had a very unconventional approach. I don't know where to even.
What? Me?
Did you have one or the other? Do you remember?
Mine was kind of supplemented. It was Vance and Samandel. Okay. It was both. Yeah. Which the George Vance method, I would say it's like a combination. It's like Suzuki for bass, but with Rabath influence. Mm-hmm. So the idea, I think, is to kind of start a little higher in the strings, where the strings are a little more flexible. They're easier to close. You can like melodies sound better up there. So hopefully the student is more engaged with that music. So yeah, we did both when I started. It was always like a Samandel etude and a couple things out of a George Vance book. So yeah.
Awesome. Did you ever have to deal with any of that, or did you?
Yes, but just unfortunately later than most.
Okay.
I didn't have any exposure to George Vance's method until much later. Mm-hmm. I kind of, in some ways, I wish I would have experienced it. I love the way that method works. Like Nate was saying, it starts you a little bit further up. It's easier to play, and it gets, especially kids, students, like comfortable with playing higher on the bass. Which I really like. I meet a lot of middle and high school, school age kids that are playing an orchestra that play in half and first position. Anything above that, they're terrified of. So I do like that method does that. No, I more or less taught myself for the first couple of years. And I still have a great memory of my cat that we had in high school. When I played piano, she would come and sit in my lap and sit in the nook of the piano. My mom was really nice to me. We had a small grand piano. And when I started playing bass and I had my bow and I was practicing my scales, I would just start playing a C major scale. She would come from wherever she was in the house and just howl at me like, please stop. It sounds so bad.
That's not it.
that is not it. Yeah. And then I got to college, and this was after my failed attempt at an engineering degree, and my teacher was very good in that, well, I played for him in my first lesson, and he looked at me and he said, sounds like you have some pretty good ideas, but not very much facility to execute them. And I looked at him, I said, yeah, honestly, that's pretty true. And so he said, great, I'm gonna just start basically where I would with a beginning student, and he handed me Samandel. And so I started Samandel then. But then as I kind of got my legs under me a little bit better, he started having me work on some of Rabath's solo pieces, which kind of introduced some of those techniques, those different fingerings. Samandel, for those that don't know, is the quote-unquote traditional way where you do, play two notes, shift and play two notes. A lot more shifting just to get that accuracy of intonation. Whereas Francois Rabath's, very French method, focuses more on kind of what's called a pivot. And so you rotate around the thumb to get more intervals into your hand, because realistically, you have about a whole step in your hand on the bass and the lower register. And so Francois says, actually, we can get a major third if you do it this way. Again, trade-offs.
So if you two both teach, and I also teach, and I find that you have to prepare, like, for a bass player who is just doing all, like you guys, who are just like, I'm just gonna do whatever's handed to me, and then today it might be jazz band, and tomorrow it might be orchestra, or the next day might be, it might be glee club or whatever. And I find that you have to use all of the above is that where you all are too? That there's really just like, there's no real just, this is the way.
There's no purism, because all of the different options kind of have their place as far as like from an execution standpoint. There are times in the orchestral repertoire, Mozart 39 first movement is an example, for me at least, in the fingering that I use, where I use pivot fingerings on some of the da 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 da. And Simandl is the bread and butter for a lot of it. It's accurate. It'll get you in tune. It's going to sound great. It's going to work. And then there's, some combination in between that kind of gets you everywhere else, I guess.
Yeah. No, I would agree with that. Yeah, it's like, I've seen, starting with like younger students, if you start with mostly George Vance, when they start getting their repertoire in orchestra or youth orchestra, then you kind of run into, it's like, oh, well, we haven't really learned that yet. So like, let's talk about half position. And so it's like, you do kind of have to kind of get them going on both. Both have their advantages. And yeah.
Are there things that you wish were taught sooner about, like, just about like the pedagogy of our instrument, or the choices that they'll have to make going down the road? Are there things that you wish you knew as a younger person that you just end up, every instrument has these, right? Brett was talking about his horn collection, and Pat has 17 trombones in our basement, and 25,000 mouthpieces. And I don't think as a beginner anyone's just like, all right, so eventually you're going to get to play this game where you stack these different parts together and hope that you find your perfect sound. Or you might end up with a German bow even though you started with French. Or are there things like, do you ever warn students about stuff?
I have like kind of a roundabout way of answering your question. It's not something that I wish I knew sooner. It's something that I wish was available to bass students. Something that I see a lot of, and I think it's particularly like you have music educators that are in elementary schools, middle schools, and high schools, and they're very proficient. They're great musicians. The issue that I run into the most is that when they're being taught in instrument methods classes in college, when they're in their music education degrees, they spend more time on violin, viola, and cello than they do emphasizing the bass. And it turns into like, okay, here's the pedagogy for the violin and viola, here's the pedagogy for the cello, bass, good luck. And so then
I'll figure it out.
You end up with teachers that are in the school system that say, okay, violins, we're going to do a 1-3-4 pattern. Cellos, we're going to also do a differenter 1-3-4 pattern. Bass players, you're doing great back there, champ. Just keep doing what you're doing. And they're just sawing away at the open D. And so I have given lessons to, school teachers of like, this is what your bass players need to be doing. And just trying to spread the knowledge. It's not a mystical thing. It just needs to be treated differently than everything else.
Yeah, I think it's probably a lot of the same stuff, but my first thought was kind of centered around sound production. A couple things we've already mentioned is bass is just a very physically demanding instrument, like we were talking about with the extension in the shoulder, and it's same thing with like back, and it takes a lot to actually produce a full big sound on a bass, and it's very different than any other string instrument. And so a lot of public school teachers just don't fully understand or haven't fully learned how to do that on a bass like they have on maybe their primary instrument was a violin, or in my case in high school our orchestra director's primary instrument was trumpet, so he had learned quite a bit of violin, but bass was pretty far removed from that. And so just teaching them how to just pull a big full sound, especially also when numbers for bass players are also a lot lower. It's like you've got 40 string players in a public school orchestra, and you have 2 bass players.
Yep.
And so it's like,
why can't you be louder?
Yeah, we just have to compete with 25 violinists, and
you're good.
Yeah.
There was someone sent me years ago an old school teacher's manual for how to pick what kids should play what instrument.
I love the look on your face.
You see where this is going. It's like, find the tallest strapping young man in your orchestra, and that is your bass player. And the friend who sent it to me is a tuba player, but he went to school when I was at Indiana with me, and I have been the same size since I was 12. And I got very lucky that I had teachers who, at 12, they're like, all right, cool, you're not getting any taller, you're going to sit down to play, you are like, here's how you play efficiently so you can make a big tone and you can keep up. And there are so many, I love the programs you see where like, there are tiny kids playing bass because they can.
Yep.
If you set them up for success, they can belt it out just as much as anybody else. They just might need like, all right, do you need to sit? No. Do you need a smaller instrument? Yes. Like
there are tiny basses for tiny humans.
Yeah. Well, and even like I just feel like if you know how to play it properly, like it doesn't matter your size or the size of the bass in some ways. Like one of my favorite memories of that being at IU. Rufang, the principal of the Indianapolis Symphony, came down and gave a master class, and she's not a very big person, and she was borrowing somebody's bass to demonstrate things on, and I remember thinking that bass particularly was not one of the louder basses in the studio. It was whoever's it was. It was just like, that's not a very loud bass. And then the rest of the master class, she was by far the loudest bass player that played.
Yep.
And like, you don't have to be large to produce a big sound.
No.
And
you don't have to play German bow either.
True.
Yeah.
That's pretty true.
You do, however, need Pops Rosin.
Yes, Rosin. Yeah.
Yep.
And they are sponsored company. Okay, this has been tremendous. I think the other thing we should talk about is, I think because of the size of our instruments, it is much easier to see the differences in what they look like, which is one of the reasons why people are like, well, wait, so yours, mine is a newer Italian. It's only 24 years old, and it's got a lovely like burnished orange kind of color. Where did your instruments come from? And they look very drastically different from
They do, yeah. So my instrument was made by a guy named Xavier Jacquet in approximately the year 1850. There's a handful of makers in that lineage. I think this particular Jacquet was kind of like the grandfather, and then there was a son, and then a son of the son that also made basses and instruments. But yeah, it comes from France in the Mirecourt region. They have a very characteristically, like, how would you describe the French bass sound?
I would say direct,
clear.
Like
punchy, like complex.
Yeah, where like maybe Italian or English might be a little more spread, especially English basses. I feel like can become very spready, subwoofery. Like they'll fill out the low end really well, but maybe in the middle or upper register they're not as clear and direct. Sure. And there are advantages for both. If you're playing a concerto, you'll want one thing, but if you're in a bass section in a big orchestra and you just need a bunch of subwoofer sound, there's advantages. But yeah, it's interesting. Our basses do look pretty different, even though I also play on a French bass. The maker isn't known on it, but it's from about the same time from the Mirecourt region of France. And they look very different. My varnish is a lot darker, and mine has violin corners on it.
Right.
Where Bobby's is a gamba cornered bass.
And that's another point of contention, is whether basses come from the violin family or the gamba family.
Right.
And because there's no standard size or how you make them, bass makers will choose to either like model one after one or the other, and so you kind of choose your own adventure every time.
Yeah, and then guitar shaped basses have entered the chat as well.
Those things, I don't even know how to carry those things.
They don't have handles. Just lift it by the neck.
With that note, okay, so clearly guitar is not going to be any of your answers. Did I miss anything? Is there any other?
No. This has been the most informative bass awareness raising.
That's what we're here for. That's our main cause.
Sponsored by Dr. Pepper.
Zero sugar, strawberries and cream.
Which I can still smell. Oh god. Okay. If you had 30 minutes on stage, no consequences, and you could try anything except for each other's instrument, what would you choose and why?
I saw this when you say what would you like a different instrument or just to play anything we wanted to? Or...
So we've had different answers. We've had I want to play the laptop, like what Derek played during the, or I want to play harp, percussion.
This is a choose your own adventure question.
Yes,
correct. And you've played half the orchestra, Bobby, so I expect you.
Well, Nate, do you have a?
I think it, like my first instinct would be it fits into the bass realm, but if it was in a hall that had like a really big old organ or like maybe a big old church somewhere in Europe, I would love to just like go to town on the pedals.
Yep.
Just like big chords.
It's really fun.
Yeah.
It's really, really fun. I did organ as my secondary instrument in college as a keyboard player. It was pretty, and Danny's out of here. But I did it for 2 semesters, and on my second recital, we went to like an old local church that had a really nice analog pipe organ, and I played some French thing that was in C minor, and the last chord had so many stops open, and I got to wail on the low C pedal, and I remember like my girlfriend at the time was at that concert, and she was concerned because I held the last note as long as I possibly could.
Bobby,
she thought I broke it. Like it was just gonna keep going, and I just didn't let go because it feels that good. You have the whole orchestra just at your fingertips and your feet.
That'd be cool.
I've always wanted to be like a drummer in a rock band. I think if I were to like choose a different instrument altogether, there's something about like double reeds that kind of gets like bassoon would be a ton of fun, or just like general percussion in the orchestra, like those specifically. Isn't there like a sub contrabassoon? There's like there's one lower, and it's frightening.
The biggest one is.
It's actually terrifying.
I'm here who wanted to play contrabassoon specifically. Was it a conductor or someone? We had another guest who also.
Judy.
Right, Judy.
Awesome.
Judy did this. That's so funny.
And I
knew we were kindred
we
spirit.
didn't make that happen. I was supposed to like.
Yeah.
I meant to set up something with Karen where we gave Judy her opportunity to play contra, and it's on me. I'll make a note. But I love that you both picked experiences where it's like maximum vibration.
Yeah.
At the lowest possible spectrum.
Yes. That is the way. Mm-hmm.
That is the way. If there had to be one way,
it's that way.
Guys, thank you very, very much.
Thank you for having us.
This was super fun.
Let's never drink this again.
Great.
Bobby, I'll come.
There is one left. Nate?
I think I was getting a headache from it.